All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Twitch and Box Sports Talk. It's week 15. Brought to you here from the Backstage Pass. This is LSB for Life. I got my boys here, Twitch and Box. We're going to start off this week with our favorite part of the podcast, one of our favorite parts of the podcast, as far as what made you Twitch this week, Box?
There's about a million things from this last week that could have qualified to make me twitch. My thing that made me twitch, though, and I feel like we talked about this with Joe Burrow, the situation, but the Commanders coaching staff letting Jalen Daniels come back and play and getting re-injured his elbow again. So he's out for the remainder of the season now. But my question is, I understand, like, the Joe Burrow quote, I think, embodies it perfectly, of I get paid millions of dollars to play a child's game, so I'm going to go play if I can. And I understand that to a point, but whoever let Jalen Daniels go out there and play, he had a terrible game in general, 9 for 20, 1 interception. You watch the film, watch the game, he was 100%, like, you could tell he wasn't 100%. And being eliminated from playoff contention, there's no need to roll your future franchise quarterback. Hopefully your future franchise quarterback. This is his second year in the NFL. But I don't know why you roll him out there, especially with how close Marcus Mariota played the Broncos the week before. Marcus Mariota went out there and had a career game and proved that he could still play. I don't know why you risk your young quarterback out there to get out there and play.
I don't know. I mean, did you watch Justin last night in that Monday Night Football game? The Chargers versus the Eagles. He's out there with one hand.
But
he's got an open wound. It's all wrapped up.
They're in playoff contention. The Commanders are eliminated, and you think you'd want to save your young guy. I mean, Justin Herbert is a dog. Justin Herbert deserves all the flowers in the world because that was like robot arm on the left arm and just throwing dots, running around doing Justin Herbert shit. They need to get that man an offensive line. If he ever gets an offensive line, he's going to be really scary to watch because he's running for his life every other play.
And talk about I don't know how many turnovers there are in that game, but it seemed like there was
a million.
Yeah,
there was 3 in one play.
Last night's game against the Chargers and Philly. Yeah, so but there was 3 in one play.
Yeah.
So anyways, they interviewed the head coach and said, "Well, I played when I was hurt, and so we're just going to see what he's made out of." I'm like, I don't know that that's what I'm doing with my guy, but I guess you do make a point that they're in a playoff contention position to where this is the guy that you've got that you feel like is in the best position to make those plays. But that's a dog.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, it's a dog mentality. Greg bringing up the turnovers because his guy threw 3 interceptions. I knew where Twitch was going with that. But anyways, I just don't know. I understand your dog wants to play, and I didn't know Dan Quinn said that. But Dan Quinn, you didn't win the Heisman in college, buddy. You didn't you didn't win the Heisman. You were never an NFL franchise quarterback. Yeah. So maybe don't roll Jalen Daniels, who's a smaller guy out there on a game that doesn't matter.
They can't say that, but I think the Commanders' season's been pretty much well over for the last 3 weeks.
So, I mean, there's so many injuries.
With so many injuries this year, I said, why not just go ahead and protect for the future?
Yeah, that's what made me twitch. The guy that took him to the NFC Championship last year, and then this year they're just...
Which was crazy. So, we've seen a complete turnaround for the
opposite,
the worst.
Flip it around.
Yeah. My thing that made me twitch this week, sticking with that Monday night game with the Eagles and the Chargers last night. By the way, there was 8 total turnovers. And on that same one, they had the Jalen Hurts, on the Charger 40-yard line and threw the interception. Then, of course, the fumble. And then Hurts then fumbled it back to the Chargers. First player since 1978 to have 2 turnovers on the same play. So you've seen that before, not unless you're 46 years old, 47 years old. So that was kind of that was a crazy play. But the thing that made me twitch specifically was the Eagles. Another week where, yes, the Chargers and the Eagles both are probable playoff teams. And I said the Eagles numerous times either missed field goal or getting stalled for the field goal they did get. And, the turnovers, I said 5 turnovers, all by Jalen Hurts, 4 interceptions, one fumble on that same play that we just referenced, including the one in overtime where Philadelphia was kind of controlling the ball, controlling the tempo at the end of the game. I thought after that Barkley touchdown that was going to be enough offense. I said, but Philadelphia, again, for a team, I think last night the graphic said, I don't have it right in front of me. Sorry for not doing my research on that. But I think it's through the first 8 games they had 3 turnovers all year. They have 8 to 10 turnovers the last 3 weeks, which is why they've lost 3 straight. So real streaky. big time catches by A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Hurts still had his moments with it, but way too sloppy. And so I said that was my thing that made me twitch. Luckily for the Eagles, they play it with I don't think the Cowboys are obviously going to catch them, either the Commanders or Giants. So they're still going to win that division, knock on wood, barring a miracle or other injuries. But just, again, this is the third straight week after getting punched in the mouth by Chicago. That's the thing that made me twitch was the 5 turnovers. And so especially the very last one. I said, I know that he just kind of dropped back and maybe not saw the guy that actually tipped the ball, but there's still a guy right there. And I said, you're at the 20-some yard line at least to tie it. And just careless with the ball on first down. So that was what made me twitch was the Eagles on offense once again with 5 turnovers.
Well, I guess what made me twitch this week is my TikTok algorithm because it's nothing but nasty Chiefs hatred, Travis Kelce crime videos. Specifically, I had to go back and look this up because watching that game, I felt like there was. How many drops do you think there was in that game? You guys have any idea?
14.
It seemed like there was 14.
Yeah,
I went and looked up Next Gen Stats and Pro Football Focus. They said there was 5 drops. I feel like there had to have been at least a dozen because that's the only thing I can even remember from that game. It's just like every time I turn around, balls that Patrick Mahomes was putting right there in the guy's mitts were getting dropped, and it's just frustration. And here's that game where it's Sunday night, it's prime time, it's at GEHA. It's everything that you want, everything that you built this franchise around with Patrick Mahomes, and then you can't pull off that win because you're just making mistakes. Because players' heads aren't in the game. Yeah. They're not focused on, what they need to do. Now, there was some moments of greatness where, Chris Jones, lights out game. Can you get everybody to fire off at the same time?
Yeah.
So now, mathematically, for all intents and purposes,
you have a 16% chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which that means you need help from everybody else. And
well, I just think it's like that the guys that make plays at the end of the game, like that's been one of the Chiefs for winning those close games. And then I don't know how many of those drops were on, at least 2 or 3 that I can think of on 4th down too. So that's just it. Like Texans made plays the entire game in those big key moments. The Chiefs didn't. That was the difference in the game.
And Bucker banged or doinked a field goal, which rarely ever happens to him. He's usually really consistent. So he's had some struggles this year, but. It's like everything that's always went right for the Chiefs. This last week did just not go right at all. It hasn't
gone right all year. That's the problem. Is that there's a little bit of luck I think that goes into things. To carry you from momentum and get you hyped up and stuff like that. But you have the talent on the team. We have won more important games with less talent on the field. True. And Sunday we lost with a lot of talent on the field. And for some guys, this will be it for them. I think this will be the end of Kelce's career.
Yeah.
Chris Jones got one more year left. But you have to start figuring some things out. And now the conversation will shift from, who's that next dynasty that's come up. And I don't think that we're going to walk away from Patrick Mahomes thinking about what can he do next year.
Yeah.
But I think we're walking away with what he's going to do this year. I think he's going to play 4 more games and then be on vacation. Yeah. Well, he's going to go back and he's going to work hard, and they're going to try to figure it out. But he will not be playing football in February.
I don't think so.
I think this is a time for Chiefs fan to pull out the old slogan "In Beach We Trust" and see what he can work in the offseason and see how you can fix. I don't
know how much bandwagon there is because Chiefs fans are obviously pretty passionate always, even when they're bad. But I thought you were going to mention the meme that you shared with us this week.
The old Tobey Maguire pulling out his Spider-Man suit from under his bed and it said, bandwagon Chiefs fans pulling out their old Patriot jerseys.
6 years ago.
I didn't appreciate that. I laughed at it. But
there's obviously bandwagon teams that...
So, my algorithm on TikTok is what made me twitch this week because it's just been... nothing but hate. But, you take it. I don't play for them. I don't have any money invested in them. It's what I love to watch. So, but that's my team. And we went for, a long time without seeing them do anything fun. So
he's been spoiled lately.
Yeah, a decade of spoiled. There's lots of franchises that will never experience that. So I'm okay with where we're at. I'm all... don't quote me, but I'm all in for the Broncos at this point. Let's go.
Clip it.
Yeah.
But rolling into our offensive player of the weeks. A lot of good choices this week. There was a lot of good football played. My offensive player of the week, though, is a man who you don't want to see in the playoffs, Josh Allen. 251 yards, 3 touchdowns, another 9 carries for 79 yards and a touchdown, with that touchdown being a 40-yard run. Just jumping around, and I don't even know how to describe it. Just lack of a better term, and I've said this a lot, but Josh Allen just doing Josh Allen things. When the game's on the line or when you need a play, Josh Allen 9 times out of 10 comes up and makes that play for you. And I don't think Josh Allen gets a lot of credit, but I don't think he gets enough credit doing it with the supporting cast he does. Great, like his tight ends are really good matchup nightmares because they're fast for linebackers to cover and they're too big for a good slot corner to cover. But with doing it without like a true wide receiver one and kind of the by committee rule has been fun to watch. I'm excited to see how the playoffs always go for the Bills, just because Josh Allen's wild. He just does outrageous things that nobody else does except for Mahomes there for a little bit. But still, and he also just that 40-yard touchdown, like he made contact with I think 5 people. But he made that touchdown, like ran through people, dove over the goal line, just crazy play by Josh Allen.
And I don't know if there's a bigger play in the game than the 3rd and 16. Like it still looks like is Cincinnati really going to get another chance, and then just ran it right for the first down. Yeah, well, and the other thing about piggyback off yours is just, when it came against like when Baker, I know that Tampa had a lot of injuries, but before Baker, and the Bucs had so many injuries, I said when the Bucs were still more relevant. I mean, they're still leading their division. But when they played the Bills, or like the first game of the year when they played the Ravens, or like last week with Joe Burrow, every time they needed an answer, Allen was there to answer. Every time it looked like the Bills, just like the Buccaneers a month or so ago, it's like every time they needed an answer, they got it. And like you said, like take away the Texans game and like a stinker against Miami, but more often than not, like when the game that was more the MVP style Josh Allen, where he's just one of my favorite players to watch, and he seems like he's a good dude. But what he means to that team, it's like. My only fear for them is just going to be relying so much on Josh Allen, and they get done, in other years past where they lose by a field goal. Like, Josh didn't have enough. No, they need to get Josh some help. But good showing by both sides of the ball. He said, credit to the defense to step up. I said because, Joe Burrow was also on the other side playing just as good. My offensive player of the week was Puka Nacua of the Rams. Had 7 catches for $167 and 2 touchdowns against a woeful Cardinals team. I said, but Rams taking care of business, and it just seems like every week Puka's around that 7 to 10 range in catches, 100 yards, a touchdown. Like the guy's, take your pick, wide receiver 1. I said, like he's in my mind he's at least top 10 receiver, borderline top 5. So, for all the weapons and Devontae Adams being, the career that he's had. And being the tall and also being just as productive, like Puka is their number 1 for the Rams, and so I still think the Rams. I won't get too much into that, but I still feel like the Rams are probably the NFC favorite just because of Puka and like the guys they have on offense and that defense. I said them or Seattle, but that was my offensive player of the week was Puka Nacua, which I'm surprised you didn't pick because I know you've always been high on Puka. So.
Yeah.
I don't have an offensive player of the week, but I'm going to steal this one from Big Willie before he throws the stats out there. R.J. Harvey actually balled out, I thought. I mean, statistically wasn't necessarily a crazy game, but he did go up for over 100 yards total from scrimmage. Ended up with 17 carries for 75 yards, and then caught all 6 of his targets for 25 yards and a TD. It's one of those things where he hasn't got a lot of playing time. I've got some personal knowledge, I guess, from an inside source about what a beast he is on the field in practice, and this opens up the door for, the Broncos played a well-rounded football game. I thought the Steelers played a well-rounded football game this weekend. Of the 3 of us sitting down here, the only team that didn't have a well-rounded game was the Chiefs. So I'm going to give some props out to you guys' teams and just say that, here it is. If the Broncos can continue to push forward with running the ball successfully and getting a couple better play calling situations maybe and putting the ball downfield, I'm curious to see what they really stack up to look like in a playoff run because I think that's where they're going to be. And so I'm going to be keeping my eye out for R.J. Harvey. That's who I'm looking for. So not necessarily my offensive player of the week by any means, but a guy that came out there and showed some grit. I mean, those were tough yards. I mean, he was just running over people and taking some big hits and showed his grittiness. So I liked seeing that. So
especially if they get home field advantage, you're playing some home games in cold weather Denver and like
it's good. Yeah, it's gonna be running the ball.
Yeah, the way he runs the ball, who wants to tackle that?
Yeah, it'd be nice. Rolling into our defensive player of the week, stealing twitches from last week, but Christian Bedford, 1 tackle, 1 crazy interception, 63-yard touchdown on Joe Burrow. You go look at the play. The interception had nothing to do with Joe Burrow. I mean, you can say whatever you want. He could have floated it higher, but if he floated it higher, the corner's making an interception at the line of scrimmage. So it was just a great linebacker blitz off the edge, or he saw something and triggered on it and jumped up, made a crazy one-hand interception. That really sealed the game, because then Joe Burrow came back out and threw another interception to number 53, Mulata. I think his last name is Mulata. But I can see his face. Big old Italian guy. He's got a big nose. The second interception was...
Really?
Yeah, I can see his... I can see his mugshot. I can say what I want. My name's on the podcast. Cancel me. But yeah, crazy interception. Really, momentum was already kind of on the Bills' side, but that really just took it off and ran away with it. So huge shout, back-to-back big interceptions for Bedford.
Okay, so for my defensive player of the week, I want to give a shout out, like as an honorable mention, like Devin Witherspoon with a sack, a fumble, and an interception for the Seahawks, who scored 17 points off turnovers again this last week. So that's another. So I think it's a two horse race. As much as I want to say the Lions, or you have the Packers and stuff, but like those are the 2 NFC teams. But I know there's other players that had just as good, if not bigger, statistical weeks, but I'm actually going to give it to Al Shahir, the defensive back for the Texans, for that interception. 17-10, 3.5 minutes to go in the game, and makes a good read on the ball and gets the interception and closes out. In my mind, I've been one of the people that, Greg and I've had given the benefit of the doubt to Mahomes through 14 weeks, but I feel like I'm jumping off that bandwagon now where they won't make it. So to get that, Houston's defense made Al Shahir making multiple plays throughout the night, but none bigger than that interception to I think really is going to bury Kansas City at the end of the day. It's a big-time interception with 3 minutes left, and just what was another impressive Houston defensive performance. So I feel like, that's why I went with him. Just
couple big injuries this week. Obviously, Zach Ertz out with an ACL injury. We probably just saw the last of Zach Ertz. It was a nasty knee injury as well. Achane, running back for the Dolphins, left the game with a rib injury. McDaniels came out and said that he could have played, but they were just saving him because they were up, so they weren't really too worried about it. So he'll be back next week for the Monday Night Football game. DK Metcalf played the whole game. DK deserves his flowers this week. He was a $30 million gunner this week on a punt return. Or punt. So DK had himself a good week, lined up at fullback, played everywhere. But he went to the hospital after the game with a stomach issue. Tomlin said that he should be back next week, but keep eyes on that one.
He had a couple of nice big plays downfield.
Yeah,
there was the first 20-yard pass in the air or something like that for over a month.
First play of the game, it was like a 37-yard pass, 35-yard pass.
It was, DK had himself a game. And then the biggest injury, Danny Dimes going down with an Achilles injury, and up until yesterday, it looked like the Colts season was over. But then the Colts went out and made a huge move.
Resurrected.
NFL changing move. They signed 44-year-old Phillip Rivers to the practice squad, expected to be activated for this Sunday's game.
Phillip Rivers, haven't heard that name in years.
He hasn't played since.
Should be well rested.
He hasn't played since 2020, so just turned 44. So Colts are back. Colts are going to the Super Bowl. But I know Twitch has a Phillip Rivers story that I heard about yesterday, and I said save it for the pod. But why does Twitch hate Phillip Rivers?
Well, I give him his flowers. One thing I will say about Phillip Rivers is he always had the Chargers competitive on top of as much as I didn't like him, I have to give him credit for the one time, which I always thought was why he was overrated. But the one time he made it to the AFC Championship game, He gets hurt the second game against the Colts. The Chargers hang on and beat Peyton Manning. But playing in the AFC Championship game with a torn ACL, like that's just I have to respect that. It's pretty tough. And keeping it close. And mind you, that was the year that the Patriots were 18-1, and they barely lost, and the Chargers barely lost to the Patriots. But that's besides the point. I think it goes back for me being a Florida State and a KU and LSU, a college football fan growing up, and so like NC State being in the same division was like always known for talking shit with Florida State. And then the one year that KU, when Mangino was there, before they went to the Orange Bowl the year before, they played Phillip Rivers, and he was borderline. He was minus the crotch grabbing. Like that was Phillip Rivers just sitting there talking shit with KU. So he already came off, and then with the Chargers, I don't think there's anybody that whined more than him as far as. And like I said, he was 50-50. He has so many game-winning comebacks, but he also how many times did he blow the lead? Like the Chargers would have these fast starts or fast records. I always thought he was overrated. I wasn't a huge fan. I said, but I do respect him, and honestly, I say that it was said, but like for just being like what I interpret as being whiny. But I will say like. Guys love playing for him. I think he's probably a decent guy, known for not also cussing, like a family man. I think that's probably why he's coming back. You know, gets to get out of the house after 4 or 5 years and 10 kids.
Yeah.
But
Philip Crimea Rivers.
But, well, I was going to say when we were talking about injuries, rest in peace to all the fantasy team names through the years. My ball, Zach Hurts. Like, rest in peace. So.
Yeah, rest in peace to that. Rest in peace, any Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, I think, still deserves a bag next year. I think he's on a 1-year contract, like a prove-it contract, and I think I hope he bounces back because it's fun to watch Daniel Jones play football. He's not a game wrecker by any means, but he's a good, consistent.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, I don't expect much for Rivers because it's been 4 years, even though it was because I didn't finish my point. So I don't have high expectations for Philip after that long and this late in the year. But I will say the last time he did play had a pretty good, solid year with the Colts that 1 year. I mean, I think it's like you said. I don't know if there's probably more recent competitive. I mean, Phillips had a good career, but anyway, I just wanted to say that.
Very interested to see what happens with the Colts now because out of every quarterback you could have went out there and got, I don't know why Phillip Rivers is the guy you picked. I mean, obviously, there's NFL quarterbacks out there floating around that you've had in your system before. There's other serviceable backups you've had out there. Tyler Heineke's out there somewhere, who's been a serviceable backup before.
Well, the Jets did that with Vinny Testaverde, too. So, I mean, we've seen some crazy shit out there in the past, but it has not worked out for any of them.
Yeah. Joe Flacco, but not near as long a hiatus.
I mean, if the Bengals were true team players, they would cut Flacco and they would have brought him back. But just to complete the Joe Flacco journeyman conversation. But I don't know. I'm just mind-boggled by, out of all the names. Like, I was thinking, like, if they were getting, because Schefter came out on Monday and said the Colts are bringing in, like, a veteran quarterback who's been retired for a while. I was like, oh, Matt Ryan's coming out of retirement, or, like, I'm trying to think of, some other names. Obviously not like a Tom Brady, but, maybe like a Matt Ryan comes back, or maybe like a Cam Newton or something crazy, like just bring a spark to the team. But Phillip Rivers didn't even cross my mind.
That's crazy.
He's coaching high school football. He was doing he does weekly interviews with Busting with the Boys. So good for him though.
Yeah. In a corresponding move, the Niners have re-signed Joe Montana, and the Steelers have signed Terry Bradshaw. So.
Terry Bradshaw. But Daniel Jones out for the season. Greg needs to go get a new fantasy quarterback.
I've got 2 of them.
Joe Burrow too.
I forgot you brought Joey back.
I picked up Burrow last week and I got Rodgers.
But it takes us to another question. Who's going to win both the NFC and the AFC South? Because right now they're both kind of in shambles, which shambles in a good way. When we started the season, I'm pretty sure we both said that the Buccaneers were going to walk away with the NFC South. But on this losing streak, the Panthers are half a game back. And then in the AFC South, the Jaguars are actually in the lead right now with the Texans getting hot. And the Colts, obviously, with a huge quarterback injury that will alter how the rest of the season goes for them. So I just wanted to get your guys' takes on who you think is going to win those 2 divisions. I think this game for the Bucs against the Falcons, divisional game, is huge for the Bucs. I think if they lose this one, I think that the Panthers walk away with it and make the 4 seed there in the NFC. I think they get killed by whoever they play first round, obviously, because it'll be the Seahawks or the Rams, whoever doesn't win that division. And on the AFC side, I don't think the Jags are good enough to go on to get that seed. I think it's the Texans to lose right now with how hot the Texans have gotten. That defense we obviously saw on Sunday, just it's going to be hard for any good team or any team in general, no matter how good your offensive line is, to be able to consistently block that defensive front the whole game with how locked down that defense has been. But what is your guys' takes on it? I'm excited because this is the opposite of the way we said that the NFC and AFC South were going to be a mess this year. Usually when we say that, it's going to be, everybody's going to not be good and it's going to be some really crappy team. But this year there's actually some good competitors to make it in there on both sides.
I'm surprised with how well the Texans have played. So I would take the Texans in the AFC South over the Jags. That's where I'm at with that, just because it's hit me personally as I've watched them play a couple times and just how well they've played. In the NFC, I don't know. I still don't want to give up on Baker Mayfield. I do feel like what you bring makes sense through the conversation as far as you make it in there and then you're that last team and you're having to play the Rams or the Seahawks. You're going to get murdered. So, I don't know that one makes any difference. But I think it does make a bigger difference in the AFC.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody wants to play that Texans defense. And I think the Jaguars, they're figuring it out, but also like their schedule has been very, very nice to them this year. And then same thing with the Colts. The Colts kind of they've here or there, but now with the quarterback situation, I think unless Philip Rivers comes out and somehow plays lights out football,
don't see that happening.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be enough. They might squeak in if the Jags and the Texans choke.
And that's what their hope was, is that they need to win two of these. Is what they were talking about. I was listening to 610 or 580 on my way back from Salina today, and it's like if the Colts can get two of these wins, they went all in this year, picking up Sauce Gardner and stuff like that, and they got Jonathan Taylor back there. They had all of the seemingly key pieces in there, and this was devastating for them. I watched Jeff Saturday last night on whatever sports talk he's on, and he's like, man, this is so heartbreaking. I'm like, well, that's I think that they get a couple games maybe with Rivers, but they're not winning an AFC championship with him.
No,
so
not at all.
It's whatever.
Yeah. I'm going to start with the NFC South. I still have the Bucs winning the division with both games against the Panthers on top of, I think it very well could come down to they play the week 18. So I think that'll be one of the prime. I thought the Steelers-Ravens, see how that plays out.
They might flex it into it.
That might be the Sunday night game. I don't know if the Packers-Bears play the last week. I'm not sure. But I feel like, the Panthers obviously had the momentum, a lot of up and coming, a lot of good things. But I feel like I still trust the Bucs to make enough plays. They've lost enough close games, been competitive. And I feel like I trust Todd Bowles over a newer head coach in Carolina. So that's a great story. But I'm going to give the edge to the Bucs. And then there's been nobody that's been more on the Texans' nuts. And I'm going to get, when we can talk about the game here in a minute, as far as this, that's probably my favorite team to watch. One of my top 3 favorite teams to watch this year is the Texans. But I still have the Jags win the division. I'm not afraid to hide behind and say, even after the 0-3 start, I'm confident the Texans will be in the playoffs and probably the better team, but they've already played the Jaguars twice. And I had the Jaguars because I'll just go through real quick. Jaguars sitting at 9-4, Texans 8-5. Texans have won 8 out of 10. But Jags finished the season with in no particular order, the Titans, the Colts, the Jets, and the Broncos. So ideally, they're probably going to win, even with Phillip Rivers or not. They're probably winning at least 3 of those games to 12, and I think that wins the division. And same thing with the Texans. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Texans, and in that case, I don't know what the next tiebreaker is, if it's divisional within the division record. So I don't have that in front of me to look at it. But with the Texans being 8-5, I think they win at least 3. They could win all 4. Yeah. And so if the Jags were to lose that game to the Colts or Broncos, I could see the Texans leave problem. But because of both the strength of schedule, because the Texans' schedule is not much harder either. It's the Cards, the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Colts, and I think they beat the Colts. So I think the Texans win at least 3 of those games. But I feel like Jaguars finished with one more win than the Texans, and just by that they win the division. But who's the better team right now? I think it's the Texans. Yeah. But I just feel because of the strength of schedule at the end of the year that Jacksonville is going to be the divisional winners.
Speaking of a team, speaking of the playoffs, Miami Dolphins have gotten kind of hot here in this last stretch. They've won 5 of the last 6 games. I'm excited. They're still in the playoff hunt, and granted their schedule down the stretch here is probably one of the hardest last 4 games of the year for anybody. Play the Steelers, the Bengals, the Bucks, and the Patriots. So I don't know if they make it in the playoffs, but I feel like
They're losing 3 of
for
those.
I feel like how we talked about the Dolphins early in there, I think they deserve their flowers real quick for how they've kind of turned it around here late and without Tyreek Hill.
Well, after the first 6 weeks, we were talking about, I can't believe Mike
McDaniel still has his job.
Yeah.
Right. And I like McDaniel, but that just goes to show that it takes a lot to keep the locker room. That he didn't lose the locker room. Granted, they haven't played the most daunting schedule, but they did beat Buffalo 3 or 4 weeks back. But
We didn't.
Yeah, I mean, they
Yeah.
beat the Falcons, they beat Buffalo, they beat the Commanders, they beat the Saints, and they beat the Jets. So, I mean, you beat the
5.
bottom tier teams.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, you still got to win those games
right,
across the board. So, yeah, the Dolphins need their flowers, but now I'm most excited for this question, and I'm pretty sure every single talk show host, I heard everybody take an opinion on it. But I definitely have an opinion on it, and it's going to be I'm not happy that it's my opinion, but it's how I feel about it. What do we think the Chiefs dynasty looks like now? Is it officially over with missing the playoffs, or do you think this is just like a bump in the road and they reload next year? Or do you think this is going to be a couple years of bouncing back?
I don't think this is the end of the dynasty by any means. There's too many things that just did not go well for them this year in close situations where, like you mentioned, they're usually overcoming some of the obstacles where, like last year, they're making plays at the last minute to get them the wins, and this year it just didn't fall their way. And so I think they had a lot of the right players that they needed this year, and they didn't make the plays that they needed. What do we lose out on next year? I think we lose Travis Kelce, but I think that we've got Noah Gray coming back in to fill in some of those tight end roles. We'll get Isaiah Pacheco back in there and have a solid run game with him and Kareem Hunt. I think that they'll look at the one thing that they need to figure out is getting an offensive line back together, because that's where we've struggled, in my opinion, at the biggest level. And so I don't even call that a rebuilding year. I just think it's you trust in Brett Veach to say, okay, well, what do we need to do to get back to where we were at? And we still have one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the NFL in our pocket. So let's give him the tools that he needs to be able to get some balls downfield. But yeah, they've looked really discombobulated this year, and it's just so unlike the Chiefs. And every Chiefs fan I know of, they just said, well, don't ever count them out. Don't ever count them out. Don't ever count them out. Now you're at 16% chances. Don't count them out. I'm like, I'm counting them out at this point this year. So, but that's where I'm at. They'll put together a few key pieces and they'll be right back in there. As good as your Broncos look on record, they still got some areas where I feel like we played a more solid game of football in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
It just hasn't turned that way in the win-loss column.
Well,
So
I feel like you kind of hinted at it earlier, but it's just like Rice or Worthy or Hunt will have a good game. It's like put it all together, but they still lost a lot of one-score games. But I'm not willing to say the dynasty is completely over. I feel like this season is a wash. I'm jumping off the bandwagon, the playoff bandwagon, because I was giving 15 the benefit of the doubt. But like you said, out this side of Tom Brady, even over Manning, Rodgers, anybody, nobody has done the things that the first 7-8 years that Mahomes has done under center. So I feel like they'll be back next year. I don't know if they'll be a Super Bowl contender, but they'll be fighting for division. They'll figure out pieces. I trust Andy Reid. It'll just be, as far as the actual bigger picture dynasty, this is part of why, the Patriots said, how do you rebuild? And so, like, they got the first part of it right. It said so. But I trust Andy Reid. I trust Patrick Mahomes, but I feel like this season's a wash. But I'm not willing to say the dynasty's completely over, just because I still think Patrick Mahomes got plenty of still, like, good football to play.
Yeah.
And the way this year has gone, I think there's no shame. It's the NFL. I'm not giving participation trophies, but what I'm saying is, like, for a guy like Patrick Mahomes, I bet he's going to be humiliated and miss the playoffs. He just plays at a different level. That's why they've been in 3 straight Super Bowls. Like, so he holds himself to a higher standard. Say what you want about him, but I feel like he slows it down next year, and he'll come out just as motivated. I know he was motivated after coming off the Super Bowl loss, but really, I agree that Kelsey will be done at the end of this year. And it's obviously already Patrick's team. They have a lot of good players. Jones, it's obviously Patrick's team. But I feel like it'll just take even more ownership, if that's even possible, next year. And, like, guys getting the better of him, like Allen and their success, I think it'll just motivate Mahomes because he has dominated them.
Yeah.
At least where it counts. So.
Yeah, he's got potentially 10 years left.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, my take on it is this is like the first time that Tom Brady they didn't win the division, and then this is like phase 2. Like everybody talks about Tom Brady had 2 careers. He had his first career, the first 10 years, and then he had the second career, the second 2, and then part 3 in Tampa Bay.
The only time he ever missed the playoffs was after that first Super Bowl. They went 9-7 or 10-6.
Yeah.
And missed it the year after his second year, 2000. But then the other year they missed the playoffs was 2010, and that's because they started was the Chiefs hurting Tom Brady week 1 and Matt Castle playing to 11-5 record, and then he duped Kansas City.
Yeah, so I think.
So anyway,
I trust definitely. I mean, the guy here once. I think it's gonna be new pieces, new rebuild across the board. Because I mean, obviously you're losing Kelsey. You got Jones on a 1 year. You got to think, like Butker's not going to be kicking the ball forever. You have some offensive line pieces that are getting a little bit older. That are obviously your offensive line hasn't been a strong point this year for sure. I mean, I think you have your center still. I think Humphrey's a Chief for life unless they think they can do something better somewhere else or get big trade capital back. But I mean, you have young weapons. You have Worthy. You have Rice. You have Noah Gray, who's kind of stepped up. So I think getting Mahomes a run game will be huge this offseason, and we'll break all that down in an offseason episode. But I don't think it's over. I'm just happy it's over for this year. So it's one less thing as a Broncos fan you got to worry about is the Chiefs getting hot at the end.
Yeah. Kudos again to you for calling out you having belief in your team and win the division.
It was crazy. But I mean, I didn't think we were gonna win it the way we have or played the way we have. I mean, I thought we were gonna play the way we have, but I thought our 2 losses were for sure gonna be to the Chiefs. And granted, one of our losses might still be to the Chiefs on Christmas, just because the Chiefs might be like, yeah, fuck this, we're not letting these guys just roll out here, and we're not gonna get swept by the Broncos. But I'm excited for sure to see what happens. But this takes us into our Twitch Inbox question of the week, brought to you by LSV for Life. He dropped this question last week, and we saved it for this week because there was a lot of big playoff implication games last week, like Bears, Packers, obviously Cowboys, Lions, Steelers, Ravens, Jags, Colts, Eagles, Chargers was a big game. Bengals, Bills. Like last week, just had a plethora of games that we were like, yeah, like this is. But the question of the week brought to you by LSV for Life and the Backstage Pass Bar, Griddle, Spa, and Casino is what team down the stretch here has the most momentum rolling into the playoffs? And there's lots of candidates out there for that. There's teams that have got hot down the stretch. The Bengals were a candidate rolling into last week, but they lose, so now they're basically out of the playoffs unless they're in the same kind of boat as the Chiefs that need some crazy mathematical things to happen for you there. But I'm going to go one NFC and one AFC team, and it's kind of scary for me to say this, but I think the Packers are the best team with the most momentum right now in the NFC. I mean, you beat the Bears the way you do, you little brother the Bears, which, they've always done. Rodgers owned the Bears whenever he was up there. But you beat the Bears in their offense. I'm not retracting my statement. I said what I said all season about them being the worst team or the worst team in the league all season. But the Packers offense is starting to figure it out. Christian Watson back healthy, and he's playing like a true wide receiver 1 that they took in the second round from North Dakota State a couple years ago. He just had injury issues. Obviously, Matt Golden's kind of coming into his own. It's getting into Packer football where you can just pound the rock with Josh Jacobs, who I think is perfect for this job, for that running back role in Green Bay. But I think the Packers have the most momentum rolling into these last couple games here. And on the AFC side, there's lots of choices for sure too. The Texans have been hot, the Jags have been winning, the Chargers. They upset the Eagles the way they did. But the team that I'm going to take on the AFC side for the most momentum down the stretch here, I'm going to have to take the Patriots.
Oh, yeah.
Just because they're a team of they have no superstars. Like Drake May's playing at MVP level, and he's really the only true like superstar you could say. Christian Gonzalez on the defensive side is kind of like becoming a young superstar. But besides that, it's just a bunch of Jimmies and Joes that are playing really good football in that division that everybody thought the Bills were just going to walk away with this year. And this week will be a big teller if the Patriots keep that momentum. But I think coming off the bye, I think Vrabel has them fired up. They beat the Bills in their last night game in Orchard Park, and now their Bills are coming to their house hungry, and I think Vrabel's going to use that. The Bills have been hot, but I think the Patriots sweep the Bills this year, and I think the Patriots get out there and roll into it for sure. But I think the Patriots have good momentum for the playoffs because it's kind of like a Bills kind of situation, but at a even crazier level. We don't have a true wide receiver one. You have an old Stephon Diggs. Then you have a couple young rookie running backs. But I think the Patriots' best momentum in the rolling into this last stretch here. And I think no matter how good Josh Allen is, they've proved that they can shut him down last time. And I think this week will be another good teller of, oh shit, the Patriots are way better than we thought they were.
Yeah. No, those are awesome takes, and I don't just say that. So I thought about going the same way with the AFC. I want to go a different direction. I want to give an honorable mention. I won't spend too much time, but the Bears up until last week went in 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
And beating the Eagles, beating some good teams.
The Bears deserve flowers. Just give them a year.
Right. And the Rams, as I said, like as far as like being balanced in like the 8-game stretch minus them forgetting to get off the bus or something against the Falcons? Not the Falcons.
The Panthers.
Panthers, yeah. But other than that, like I said, Rams honorable mentions because I think they're one of the best teams and still the way they've been playing, the balance they have. But out of the NFC, the other team that's won 9 out of 11, I said I'm going with the Seahawks. Rolling with a lot of momentum. I said they had I'm high on. Well, and then I said maybe this is why you'll see my 2 picks. I said, but I've been high on them both. For those who do still listen every week, but on the NFC, it's the Seahawks, just because they had chances to win both games they lost. Darnold going back to old Darnold at the end of the ball games. I said, but they had 4 turnovers against the Rams and just ran out of time. But they moved the ball consistently. But just the balance. I know the Rams have the balance, and Stafford, even at his age, is probably the better quarterback than Darnold. But Darnold's playing phenomenal again this year overall. But you have, Smith and the Jigba, and you have Cooper Kupp, and you have Snead, who just ran one back, but was a number 1/2 receiver in New Orleans. Now they have 3 legitimate wide receivers. While we've been talking about guys that can move the stick. Nobody, even George Pickens, Jamar Chase, no one in the last 2 years made bigger or more plays than Jigba. So a true number 1 on top of that defense that seems like, I don't know if this is the 3rd straight week, 4th straight week that they've had a defensive touchdown, had a punt return for a touchdown. They're getting it down on all fields. When they get the turnovers, they're turning the ball over. Again, 17 points off turnovers again this week. So on the NFC side, I'm going to say winning 9 out of 11. I'm saying the Seahawks. And on the AFC, it's really easy to go towards, the 2 biggest stories in my opinion, and the only two teams that both have a 10-game win streak, and that's the Broncos and Patriots, and like how they both won some games. Drake May actually looking like a legitimate MVP candidate, and just like you said, we've talked about like from the beginning, like just big Mike Vrabel believers in this, like that toughness and bringing that culture back from Old New England. So I like the team and the culture that he's brought back. That's, even though I'm not a Patriots fan, I said the Broncos defense. I feel like it's the Broncos, the Seahawks, and then this other team. Well, I think is the hottest team, winning 8 out of 10. But I'm going to say, even though the Broncos this team was part of the Broncos' 10 wins, I'm going to say the Houston Texans as the hottest team in the AFC, winning 8 out of 10. One of those losses coming to the Broncos in which the Texans were leading for most of the game. And
last second.
It was another one of those last-second Denver games, but Houston playing completely different on offense. And then just over the last 4 weeks, how much better does that Jacksonville win look? So I'll try not to ramble on about this, but you look at even when the Jaguars were up 29-10, they had less than 200 yards offense, and then the defense just came in and you had turnover, sacks, Hunter, Anderson, both a couple sacks apiece, blah, 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 blah. They beat the Jaguars. Then the next week they beat the Colts. Then they beat the Chiefs. They beat this last week. And then the 8-sack performance, which wasn't even that close. When the Bills got first downs on that Thursday night game, it was 3rd and 16. Guy skips, bails out of 2 tackles. And it was never that close. That's what I'm saying. Look how Josh Allen's looking more like Josh Allen. And I'm just saying the Texans in consecutive weeks have now beat the Jags, the Colts, with everybody healthy still.
Yeah.
The Chiefs and the Bills. And so they beat 4 of these teams right here that are on the cusp. Went into Kansas City, knew that Kansas City's offense was struggling. Patrick Mahomes, speaking of which, with their whole season on the line, their legacy on the line on Sunday night, Kansas City didn't do shit the first half at all. On top of with the play of C.J. Stroud looking more confident, coming back healthy, and if Nico Collins and Schultz keep playing the way they're playing, I feel and they have 2 physical running backs. I'm high on the Texans. I said that defense is absolutely legit. I feel like they're the hottest team in the AFC right now. It doesn't matter what offense they're playing. They're lucky to get the 16 points even on top of. We said it from the get-go, which is why I never fully jumped off the bandwagon. Look out for the 0-3 Texans.
Yeah.
Because even when they lost to the Bucs, they lost to, I think, the Commanders early. They lost, or no, not the Commanders. They lost to the Rams, which again, that's one of their losses.
Yeah,
the Rams and the Bucs.
Rams are pretty good at the game of football this year.
But they've played for him even when they were 0-3. That's why they're sitting here as the hottest team. They play hard for DeMarco Ryan and that's the team I think that could really surprise a lot of people. And if Stroud takes that next step, he's won playoff games. People forget about that. And young. And I think he's still a playmaker or 2 away. And I don't know how much Nick Chubb has left. But the 1-2 punch they have with some good playmakers on offense, it's just that old school mentality. But most weeks if the Texans scores 20 points, in today's NFL, you just don't see that kind of defense anymore typically. And the Texans are, I know the Cowboys, or not the Cowboys, but the Broncos have been that team too. But you typically, it's harder, even the good defenses back in the day would be 10 to 15 point. If you keep teams consistently below 20 in today's NFL, that's still a pretty good defense. And the Texans are still holding them a lot of times under 16, 17, 8 sacks. That's the last thing, then I'll shut up about it. I'm sorry. But one thing, I'm not a big believer in pro football focus.
No.
As far as but what I will say about it is it's got some type of accurate, scales and ratings and stuff like that. And so one thing that stuck out to me was watching the Sunday night game and watching the introductions and how 6 or 7 of the Texans guys, like Anderson, 3 out of 123 linebackers, number 7, they've got 6 guys that are in the top 10 of their position on that defense, and that's why it's showing up. So anyway, Texans and Seahawks, just because of the way they play, that they've. And I like the balance.
I think the Texans right now are in a Bengals situation of last year is don't let them in the playoffs because nobody wants to see them in the playoffs. Because the Bills definitely don't want to see them in the playoffs after what happened last time they played. I don't think the Broncos want to see him again just because of how that game went and how it scored. And obviously, an AFC South team doesn't want to see him because they see him all the time. So they already have your numbers. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But LSV...
Especially when you talk about, a lot of times statistically when a team sees them a second time, it's that much harder. Obviously, they pick up on stuff. So
a third time.
Yeah. So for that Texans defense, giving you 2 and 3 opportunities to learn your offense.
Yeah. But LSV, who do you got for the most momentum rolling into the last playoff stretch here?
So it's a little crazy for me. I'm going to go out there and pick a team that you guys aren't talking about. Records say one thing in the AFC, and there are some teams that they look like they're playing good football. I'm not the biggest believer that those AFC teams with the great records like the Patriots and the Broncos. I'm not saying they're not good, but what I'm looking at as far as momentum, and I pulled up the schedule and lost it. Detroit's got a rough schedule out here the next 4 weeks. But I do feel like if there's a team that's going to build on some momentum off of some big wins, that's the team that I'm taking that says if you want to be hot going into the playoffs, that's where I feel like they're going to come out there and they're going to win 3 out of these next 4 games. And they're going to be beating legitimate teams and putting people on their back feet. And just that's where I'm at. I feel like Detroit's going to be represented in the NFC championship game. I take them going to the Super Bowl. Seattle's good. I mean, it's you watch them on tape. I've seen some of their highlights. And you're like, who's beating them? I think it's going to be Detroit, and I think Detroit's going to get hot, and that's what's going to be the momentum that I base that response on. So
Yeah, holy crap! Their last 4 games are the Rams, the Steelers, the Vikings, and the Bears.
Yeah.
So like,
They win 3 out of 4 of those.
I think they win 3 or 4 of those, and that's a power statement going into the end of the year.
Yeah.
They're winning games that you need to win to establish your place in the playoffs. But I think they win 3 out of the 4 of those, and they're beating 3 out of 4 legitimate teams. The only non-legitimate team
No, it's
actually,
is
Vikings and Steelers.
Vikings.
Vikings and Steelers.
the Vikings are bad. Did you guys see the J.J. McCarthy revenge game?
Yeah.
Bullying still works, guys. J.J.
Yeah.
McCarthy came out and had a great game.
Yeah. Where'd that come from?
I think it was. I mean, his locker room meme where they Photoshop their quarterback's faces on his body, and like the terrible stat lines. Like he obviously, no matter how much noise you try to block out, you have to see that because there was like the FIFA World Cup was using that meme.
Yeah.
There were soccer leagues from Spain using that meme. The NHL was using the meme. I mean,
Yeah.
the meme template got put everywhere. So he definitely heard the noise and definitely.
Here's the best meme I got sent to me all week.
It's a picture of Joe Biden in a Indianapolis Colts jersey and it says Phillip Rivers underneath it for the game on.
127.5 passing yards, less or more. What's the over/under on Phillip Rivers?
For what was it?
127 yards.
But it's a meme. It's Joe Biden.
It's Joe Biden on it. Yeah.
So no, I'm gonna take a crazy pick. I'm gonna go out there with the Lions. I think that's a team that has had a few setbacks, but they've been there. They're hungry for it. Dan Campbell is gonna get those guys ready for it. They're gonna beat the teams that think that they are the team, and that's just gonna carry on what you said is momentum for that playoff run. So that's my take.
I hope you're right. I said that.
I do too. I hope
I hope it's the Lions Seahawks. That'd be my dream NFC championship because I would not care. I would love to see either one of those teams in the Super Bowl.
So yeah, there's my tag.
But I think the Rams are going to be in the NFC championship game just because Matthew Stafford's going to remind everybody. But anyway,
I mean, you said Rams, Lions, NFC Championship.
I think the Rams Seahawks depending on the seeding.
Yeah, I mean
Well,
Rams
yeah, probably
Rams
depends,
Lions
yeah.
would be an awesome because you got quarterbacks that played for each other. You got
Oh yeah.
how it's been. I
How
mean
they
Stafford
switched.
revenge game and just
Yeah.
Jared Goff revenge
Especially
game.
after this last season of quarterback.
Yeah.
And just how
I think everybody loves Stafford for what he did, and I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna say.
Well, I
that.
just want to say real quick. That's going to be another one. We talked about the Texans, Jaguars. That's going to be a great game for potential playoff implications. Week 18, Chicago and Detroit. We'll see what Chicago.
Yeah.
But 9-4, 8-5, we expect Detroit. I don't think Chicago. I was skeptic. I thought they were good or a good story. Maybe a fringe 7, but I feel comfortable not saying especially after we'll get to that in a second, going through the games. But I feel like Chicago's legit, probably going to make the playoffs. So that's going to be a great. I think the Packers will still win the division by a game or two. I said, but that could have some significant playoff implications. Week 18 between the Lions and Bears. Anyway.
Yeah. Before we roll into our game recaps, I feel like we just have to talk about how crazy it is that you have divisions like the NFC West and the NFC North that have all these great teams that are all fighting for playoff spots. Then you have the NFC South that you have the Panthers and Bucks that are going to be rolling in there with a 10-7 record, maybe a 9-8 record, get a playoff spot. So crazy to think about, especially with how good both those divisions are. But rolling into the games we're going to recap, we're going to break down the Cowboys-Lions game for you, the Steelers-Ravens, the Bengals-Bills, the Bears-Packers, the Texans-Chiefs, and the Eagles-Chargers. Starting with our Thursday night football game, Detroit gets a good, huge win, 44-30 over the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott having another great passing game with 376 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, got sacked 5 times. Javonte Williams found the end zone again with another 67 yards on the ground. CD Lamb and Pickens both over 100 yards. CD, 6 receptions for 121. Oh, no, not Pickens. Ryan Floundry, 115 yards and a touchdown, so wide receiver
Pickens
3
had a
there.
rough week.
Yeah, Pickens had 37 yards, which that'll happen when you have crazy weeks across the board. But Detroit gets hot again. Gets hot at the right time. 309 yards and a touchdown from Old Goff. David Montgomery leading the team in rushing yards for 60 yards and a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, 12 carries, 43 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Momentum.
Jameson Williams stepping up with Amon-Ra being banged up, 96 yards. Amon-Ra coming back and holding his own, though, with another 92 on the ground. And then Isaac Tasala getting another one through the air, another touchdown there. So, I mean, the Cowboys season's all but done unless some crazy fall-off happens there on that NFC West side, because obviously the 49ers are pushing for a playoff spot. The Seahawks or Rams one of them are going to make that wild card spot, and that leaves it open to the Bears or another good team. So the Cowboys sitting at 6-1. I think it's going to be a tough road for them to get in there across the board. And then the Lions getting hot. But this game was a fun game to watch because it's the Lions of old that we've seen that are not necessarily blowing teams out, but they're good for 40 points a game. And it showed Dan Campbell definitely exposed the holes in the Dallas defense that was still there, just they were playing better. But that's still at the end of the year when we talk about, like what went wrong for a team, it's going to all come back for the Cowboys, to their defense, because that offense has been explosive, and you put up another 30 points against a good Detroit team. But, I mean, Lions are getting hot, and Dak passed the ball 47 times.
Yeah.
That's all I got. It's crazy.
That was a big win because Dallas coming in with the way they won against the Chiefs and went to the Eagles, beating the last 2 Super Bowl champs. I know neither one of those teams are playing great, but like Dallas moved the ball in the second and third quarter. But like you said, that Detroit pass rush and getting turnovers, getting the fumble before the second quarter, and getting turnovers and starting from a 3-3 game after the first couple possessions, to where then the Detroit through the third quarter went on a 24-3 run. So it was a bend don't break defense for the Lions. And I said, and then how about, he said, St. Brown coming out. I said, we're not sure he's going to play, and then being there big, making big 6 catches for 92 yards, several first downs on top of Williams. Just a good balanced effort by the Lions. We keep talking about balance, but Williams having 92 yards, and then Gibbs again. Most touchdowns. I think he's got the second most touchdowns to his first 2 years in the NFL, over 424, with like 48 touchdowns. But he was my other one. But I think I could be wrong. I think we picked Gibbs twice for Offensive Player of the Year or Player of the Week twice. But I almost picked him. He had 92. He had like 43 rushing yards and like 43 rushing yards.
Yeah, but then 3 touchdowns out of that just because.
And 77 through the air on screen pass. So it was like 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like Gibbs was kind of the star of the show.
It's because Barry Sanders was there. He goes over 100 yards and scores a touchdown every time Barry Sanders is in house.
But
the stat still lives true.
Well, and then when Dallas tried to bring it, come back close, and they got within like a 1-score game plus a 2-point, then that's when they scored their extra points. So with the game on the line, they didn't panic. They've lost some games lately where they've given up the lead or given up big plays, and they hung in there. And like I said, Dallas was coming in really hot. They did a good job containing George Pickens. Like I said, I had CD going down in the third quarter. But I said Prescott turned the ball over twice instead, but still had almost 400 yards passing. To me, that loss wasn't on him. They said it was the Dallas defense for giving up the chunk plays. But great win for Detroit. I was happy to see it, and that was what I took from the game, was just guys like St. Brown and Detroit just doing, like you said, it wasn't always the prettiest, but just finding a way to put up 40 points. It might be a field goal here chipping away.
That's where my momentum's coming from.
Yeah.
I think that this is the first, you're seeing this now, and then you're going to have to win some big games.
Yeah.
You're going to have big-time players make big-time plays in big-time situations. And that's what you want to see in December and January. So I think they're going to be better than any AFC team that shows up to.
Well, just like everybody loves Dan Campbell, though, so that's a guy you want to play for. So he's going to embrace those kind of moments and challenges, and he'll have those guys ready for him.
Very much so. Rolling into another great game that made some playoff implications. Pittsburgh Steelers get a win over the Baltimore Ravens, 27-22. Starting out with the Ravens here. Woo! I picked them to win.
Yeah.
Slap it up.
But total of the clapping threw me off. But
that was me clapping, not Twitch, by the way.
I just had to clear that up there. But Lamar Jackson, 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Derrick Henry, 25 carries for 94 yards. Lamar got a rushing touchdown in there with another 43. Zay Flowers goes over 100 with 124 yards. Isaiah Likely catching 4 passes for 25 yards and a touchdown, and possibly another touchdown that got called incomplete. We can talk about that here in a minute. But on the other side, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Aaron Rodgers, 284 yards, 1 touchdown. Rodgers also had a rushing touchdown, so shout out to A-Rod getting in there.
Mobility there.
Yeah.
Scramble out to the left.
They also finished with 34 total rushing yards, so I don't know if that's successful playoff or games down the stretch, but screw it, you won the game. DK Metcalf, like we talked about a little bit earlier, had a great game. 7 receptions, 148 yards. Jalen Warren, who Twitch has been high on all year, 49 yards, a touchdown. And there, Calvin Austin, 1 for 31. So, I mean, you look at the stat book, and neither of them really jump off the page. Neither team really jumped off the page. I mean, Pittsburgh only having 34 rush yards, but just finding a way to get it done. And the Pittsburgh defense, I mean, sealed the game with was it Highsmith with the sack to seal it. So, I mean, they must have listened to Twitch and Box last week and heard Twitch challenging them, saying, hey, guys, like, we the highest paid defense in the league, maybe make some plays here. But it was a good win for them. Steelers at 7-6, the Ravens at 6-7. So
same as the Chiefs.
same as the Chiefs. But Twitch, what's your not to get too much into it, but what is your instant reaction from this one other than A-Rod getting a rushing touchdown?
All right. Well, I said leave it again after I talked smack. We've talked about that. If I do know my team, even though I didn't pick them last week, it's like I said, you watch them lose. I don't think they will, but lose to the Dolphins or lose a game they should win. And then I said, watch with any time that Mike Tomlin's back is against the wall and skies. They get their butt kicked by the Eagles one week or whatever. Like last week, the Bills. Anytime they heard the fire Tomlin chants or anything come out, they said leave it to the Steelers to pull off the win. But now, obviously, especially with the Bengals losing, clearly back in the driver's seat. I said Baltimore obviously struggling a lot offensively. I know Jackson's been hurt, but let's just guys like Mark Andrews only getting 9 receiving yards. Just really sporadic on offense. So I think the other big story, there's 2 stories. So for Pittsburgh, the big thing of the game was they can't get, where's Metcalf been the last 6 weeks, and they can't throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field, and they obviously the first play of the game being a 35-yard pass right on the money down the sideline. Within the first drive, Metcalf had 2 catches for over 60 yards, so they made a point early and often to get him involved and threaten over the top. Even like Calvin Austin having the 1 catch for 31 yards. I don't know how sustainable that is, and I'll get to that in a sec, just because I think a lot of that has to do with a big problem for the Ravens side. Not to take away from the Steelers, but is the lack of a pass rush for that we're used to seeing from the Ravens. But I mean, Rodgers probably playing his best game as the Steelers so far. Jalen Warren with the big touchdown, big plays. I continue to really like what Gainwell does out of the backfield. I mean, it's nothing flashy, but he's like a Swiss Army knife. He's not overly big, he's not flashy, but it just seems like he makes 4 or 5 plays every single week for a first down or big plays. And like I said, I'm gonna say, not that I see them obviously going very far, but because of the Bengals losing last week, and then just the flat effort that I saw of the Ravens, and with the Ravens who they have coming up, who I was going to give them the benefit of the doubt, at least a couple of them, but with the Bengals, they have the Bengals coming up, they've got the Packers, they've got the Patriots, and they have the Steelers in Pittsburgh again the last week of the season. So I feel like, honestly, now that it might be at that 9-8, 10-7, but 9-8, I think that we'll probably win the division. I sound so pessimistic. I'm unexcited about my own team winning the division. I don't expect them to. They'll be playing somebody like a Buffalo or Jacksonville or a Chargers. And we saw how that went the first time. But not to take away from Pittsburgh, something that if there's something to be positive over, they said numerous times, hanging in there, making the clutch plays at the end. I did think, just to be honest, I said I know the NFL rulebook, and a big controversial play was the likely for the second week in a row, the wide receiver for the Ravens having a good game, having a touchdown. But with about 4.5 minutes to go in the game, catches one, gets 1 foot, 2 foot, and about ready to have the 3rd foot down. And Joey Porter, kudos to him, knocks it loose, and they call it an incomplete pass upon review, which I honestly don't know how they could reverse that, because I thought, even though it's that 3rd foot, he got the 3rd foot, and if you look at it, I thought he had a catch. So, but kudos to Joey Porter for continuing that play through while you play through the whistle. And then I said, having the turnover and the sack at the end of the game, I said when the Baltimore was moving the ball, Baltimore again And that's honestly why we've kind of owned the Ravens through, other than like the playoff game from last year. So, but like, I'll just be honest, over the last 4 or 5 years, having the better team on paper than us, but we beat them more often than not because of the mistakes that the Ravens make against us. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about the Baltimore offense. I know Lamar's been hurt, but we got kind of lucky. And I do want to throw one statistic out here on Joey Porter Jr. But no, I just want to give a quick shout out on the positives that we talk about Joey Porter Jr. I brought him up before as being a true lockdown corner. And then, I mean, he'll have a couple missed tackles, and he'll have some penalties, 1 or 2 a game, instead because he's aggressive. But over his last 5 games, he's only been targeted 13 times for 3 catches and 31 yards and a 39.5 passer rating, including that big breakup in the end zone yesterday. So, on top of also, I believe causing a fumble the week before. So I just want to give him a shout out. On the flip side of that, we'll get on the state of the Steelers, but after giving up 250 rushing yards last week to the Bills, Ravens still rushed for over 200 yards against us. So we'll see. But I just want to say that's what I took from the game. Good win for us. Like I said, I feel like as pessimistic as I am, that I feel like that really completely flipped the tide, and Pittsburgh will find a way to beat, I think, Miami and Cleveland. Even if they don't beat the Lions or even the Ravens the last week, I feel like it's the Steelers' division to lose now.
Yeah.
So.
Exciting time to be a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Yeah.
Tomlin just saved his job for another 2 years.
That's the issue.
That is the issue.
It is legitimately. But rolling into another game, a fun snow game. If you want to get a good clip, go look up Jameis Winston talking about the Bills-Bengals snow game. He was on Fox this week. I mean, if you just want to have good, just go look up Jameis Winston highlights from Fox this week if you want to have a good laugh. He did a team huddle with everybody in it. I mean, I can't wait for Jameis Winston to be on TV so I get to listen to him talk every week. Mm-hmm. But the Bengals lose to the Bills in heartbreaking fashion, 39-34. Joe Burrow, 284, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Samaje Perine, 31 rushing yards. Chase Brown getting 1 on the ground with 23 yards. T. Higgins having a huge day, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mike Gesicki, 86 yards and a tutty. And then Jamar Chase, 44 yards. But this game, those 2 interceptions, obviously my defensive player of the week was a pick 6 in there. But this game was a back-and-forth game all the time, and obviously this takes it to my offensive player of the week. Josh Allen, 251, 3 tutties. James Cook, 80 yards on the ground. Josh Allen, another rushing touchdown, a huge long one. The tight end stepping up this week in the passing game with Dawson Knox, 93 yards on 6 receptions. Dalton Kincaid, 41 yards on 4 receptions for a touchdown. So those tight ends being matchup nightmares finally got them both back healthy for the first time since I think week 5. So that came in clutch there. But this was a fun game to watch. I didn't get to watch all of it. I was helping a buddy move a couch and some other stuff around. But got home and was happy it was a snow game. And I mean, I always love a good snow game. And it was a fun game to watch, to go back and watch the highlights on, just because every time the Bills would score, Joe Burrow would come back and go right back down the field, and they'd kick a field goal or get into it, and the Bills go back and forth. There's only 2 punts the whole game. So if you're an offensive football lover, this was the game to watch for you.
Yeah, I watched that game. I kept going back and forth between the Steelers and that game. But no, it just reminded me of the divisional round a couple years ago when Cincinnati went in there. I don't know if it was 21 or 22. It was either the year they made it to the Super Bowl or the year after. But going in and beating Josh Allen and Joe Burrow beating Josh Allen in the playoffs, and Cincinnati kind of dominating them. Started off the way they started off last week in play, like Joe Burrow coming back against Baltimore. And like I said, had they won that game, I feel like the Bengals would have had a really strong chance to actually catch us and everybody else in the division, just because their last 3 games. But I'm just saying, it looked like a repeat of 3 or 4 years ago when they played a snow game up in Buffalo, where going off of last week, like Cincinnati came out hot. They scored two touchdowns quick. It was 14-0 or 14-3, and then from there it was just answering call back and forth. Both quarterbacks playing at an insanely high level. So up until, I mean, if you're Cincinnati, and you're just kind of used to. I know the biggest turn of the game was the 2 turnovers and back-to-back possessions, going from 28 to 18, and then 28-25 and of course, the interception for a touchdown. Like those back-to-back plays were obviously the turning point in the game. But I still don't put that loss on Burrow. I still put it on the Bengals defense.
Yeah.
Yes, the 2 turnovers hurt, but said you're up 28-18 with less than 8 minutes to go. You just scored it. You just answered a touchdown from the Bills when it was 21-18. High pressure situation. Cincinnati looked composed, and so they're up by 10. And then yes, they gave up the touchdown. Josh Allen just doing Josh Allen things on 4th down, run across the end zone to keep it close. But then, I said even after they got that second turnover, it was 28-38. I said, or I'm sorry, 39-28 because it was. 21 points? Yeah, because it was 28-18. It was 21 points in 4.5 minutes. So there was still 3 minutes to go in the game when it was just 28-10. And so then they're up by 11. But what I want to say about that was even with that, the play before Cincinnati scored a touchdown, Joe Burrow makes amends for this forced touchdown pass. But he puts one on Chase Brown who goes right through his hand, but it's a guy where only he could get it, about a 40-yard pass. Next play was that play to Higgins, right on the money as well. So 2 anomaly interceptions or turnovers by Burrow. I said, but he put 2 balls. And at the end, you still had, after all that,
still had a chance.
You had 3rd and 16. You let Allen go right through your defense. You don't have a spy or somebody stop. You it's a part of their game. And really, Buffalo doesn't have the best. I know Allen can make those guys level up, but you don't have anybody on Josh Allen. It's not like Buffalo's receivers are all world.
Yeah,
no offense. So
yeah, I don't know what.
I don't know. I put that on Cincinnati's defense, and that's too bad for them. Because if they would have won, I would have picked them to beat Baltimore. Then they finished the year with the Jets, Cardinals, and I think the Browns again. So they would have had to have the Ravens lose, which they just lost to us. So if Cincinnati would have beat them next week, they would have the tiebreaker. They would have had the tiebreaker, but.
Which would have been crazy to think about.
Right, and that's why I feel like the Ravens, or for the Bengals, that was their knockout punch. Because I feel like knock on wood. I'm not saying I want that to happen, but I don't see us losing 3 more games and finishing 8-9. I think we win at least 2 of those.
Yeah, Tomlin's good for 500.
I think so. Between the Browns, that'll be what decides it. I feel like it's going to be the Browns and the Dolphins. But make sure you win those 2 games. But for the Bills, like you said, Josh Allen just doing Josh Allen things, getting down early but not getting disgruntled, and then from there, just like I said, the 3rd and 16, when they needed a big play, he turned into Superman. He's super fun to watch, and in my opinion, when he's on, as far as the quarterbacks, he's the best quarterback, even over Jackson, over the last 2 years. That was my favorite part. That was my favorite game of the week. One of the favorite games of the weekend was that one. We thought it'd be good, but like I said, I feel like if Burrow could ever stay healthy, Burrow might be even better than I don't know. He can't have the rushing ability, but it's those 2 quarterbacks. It was just
he's the only other one to make it to Super Bowl out of those guys. So
Well, I thought it was going to be good because I laughed because last week before the podcast we had to take a quick pause so I could go pick up a play. And I picked up Joe Burrow, the guy that I dropped after he got hurt. I said, I'm going to go grab him back up. And I didn't put him in my lineup. So guess who got left in my lineup?
Yeah.
Danny Dimes. So, yeah, so I still won even though I had...
Who did you lose to that week? As I'm scarfing down dinner and he's picking up Joe Burrow.
yeah,
Yeah.
our fantasy football league's kind of a mess right now.
No, it's not.
I mean, I'm happy where I'm at.
I'm in first place.
Yeah, I moved up to 3rd this week.
I thought that I started Joe Burrow, and I did not. I had Danny Dimes, and then
he was
gets
watching
hurt.
the game.
I'm
God,
I'm thinking I'm just killing it.
170 points.
Dan, and then I looked down. I was like, "What in the hell?" So I picked the guy up and then didn't start and left him on the bench.
Still got the win though.
So I got some maintenance to do on fantasy football, but that was a good game. Switched back and forth
so.
to that. So a lot of fun last weekend, other than.
At the Sunday night game, but rolling into the 325 game that I'm pretty sure everybody else watched. Another, except for me, because I'm a Broncos fan, so I had to go watch the Broncos Raiders game, and I didn't really do much switching back and forth because I didn't really. I kind of forgot it was on. Had a rough weekend, so it's kind of just locked in on that. But the Bears lose to the Packers in another snow game, 28-21. Caleb Williams. 2 touchdowns and an interception to seal the game for 186 yards. Swift, 63 yards on the ground with Montgomery. I need to learn how to say his name. 57 yards, their rookie undrafted free agent. Luther Burns stepping up in a big way. Rookie receiver out of Missouri, 67 yards. Cole Kmet, 42 yards. Loveland, the first-round draft pick, 29 yards and a touchdown. DJ Moore, 1 catch, -4 yards. Sorry if you started DJ Moore this week on your fantasy team, especially after a good week last week. But the Packers, on the other hand, figured out how to play offense. 234 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception from Jay Love. Josh Jacobs, 86 yards, 1 touchdown. Christian Watson kind of coming back on the scene, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns. Bo Melton, who has been the number 4 receiver this year, number in and out of the lineup with all the injuries they've had. 1 catch for 45 yards and a touchdown. Beautiful deep post that just Bears coverage blew it on that one. And then Jalen Reed, 4 for 31. So I think there's a couple of things I want to hit on this one. First of all, I think the Bears are a year away. I think the Bears only get better with Ben Johnson in year 2, and I think next year we'll be talking about him as a true Super Bowl contender. I think they make the playoffs. But unless they do something like the Bears do every year, or Bears in the past have done, and implode your team or have some crazy offseason stuff happen, I think the Bears are a legit contender next year. I think this takes a little bit longer. And Caleb Williams, that last interception, it's you learn this when you play Madden a lot, but also you hear NFL coaches say it all the time is when you're rolling to your left, you never throw it back. If you're a right-handed quarterback, you never throw it back right across your body. And granted, he got away with it the week before to seal that Eagles game away, to put the nail in the coffin there. It was the same kind of concept, same play, but you don't throw it back across your body when you're rolling left with a right-handed quarterback. But Caleb Williams did it. So Caleb Williams still has some football to clean up. He looks a lot better than he did last year, but there's still some moments you're like, ooh, that's Caleb Williams from last year, and it's this growing pains that he's still going through. But the Packers' offense has been clicking, and I think the Packers' offense is a perfect example of wide receiver by committee can work. Because, Christian Watson, second-round pick 3 years ago out of North Dakota State. He's kind of been hit or miss, but when he's not hurt, he's been really good. Bo Melton, who nobody's heard of until this week, catches a huge ball for a touchdown. I'm sorry if you're a Bo Melton fan. Don't mean to insult you there. Jalen Reed, another guy who's been in and out of the lineup all year. Romeo Doubs, who's been looking like a wide receiver 1 up to this point, 0 catches. And then Matthew Golden, rookie receiver in the first round, 0 catches. So, they're just rotating guys through that wide receiver position. Granted, it was snowing, so, obviously you're not pushing the ball down the field, which really is what Dobbs and Golden's tickets are. Golden's a 4.2 speed guy, so obviously he's their deep threat. But the Packers' offense is starting to click now. Jordan Love has thrown 3 touchdowns off of fadeaway balls, which are usually just throwaways for most quarterbacks, but it looks like Michael Jordan out there just throwing deep touchdown passes for no reason. So the Packers have figured out how to play offense. So I can no longer say they're the worst team in the league. I think they're a legit team now, for sure. At 9-3-1.
Only took 13 weeks.
Yeah, only took. Their defense has been good and keeping them in games, but they finally started clicking across the board. This week would be a huge test with the Broncos, but then they play the Bears, the Ravens, and the Vikings. So, you can win.
Do I need to get my accountant out here?
You can win. You can win 3 of those games for sure, depending on how the Broncos games go. But it depends on what version of the Bears you get as well, because obviously you have 1 week and then you play them again. And it was a close game, and they had Bears drove down a chance to win it. Caleb Williams obviously, that was the pick. But the Packers have momentum rolling into the playoffs, so I'm excited to see how they do, and I'm excited to see what the Bears look like next year and see if they can make any noise in the playoffs. If they're not going to get the lucky draw. I think the number 5 seed in the wild card is NFC West for sure. But if they can get a draw and go play the Eagles that have been hit or miss all year, they already beat them once. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Bears. But this was a fun snow game to watch or catch the end of and go back and watch the highlights of. The Packers offense figured it out. It's kind of mildly concerning.
Yeah. No, I said that was. I watched most of that game. I was watching part of the Raiders game, and then that was the game, the 3:00 game that I was pretty much watching. But
part of the Raiders game.
Raiders Broncos. Was that the other 3:00 game?
Respect.
Sorry.
The fuck? It wasn't Las Vegas. I get it.
Okay.
Did you see all the orange that was there though?
So, but the oldest rivalry said it was ended up living to the hype. It said 21-21 late, and then the Packers making the final play. Said guys. He said by committee. He said I feel like they have a stud tight end. Golden's a legit number 1. Dobbs, they've got some playmakers. He said the offense over the last 2 weeks answering Detroit last week. Every time Detroit scored, answering the bell. They needed plays in the end of the first half. This game and in the regulation towards the last 5-6 minutes, and the Packers made those plays at the end of each half. So, that's something to carry over. Like you said, their defense has been there all year. If you're Chicago, it's got to be, on one hand, extremely frustrating because you have a chance to take first place, and for the most part, they know, at least over the last 25, 30 years, since Brett Favre, Green Bay, even when years Chicago's good, Green Bay's been the thorn in their side. So, tough loss to a division rival. And they wanted to prove, and I feel like that's what Chicago's proven over the last month is the 9 out. You don't win 9 out of 11 by mistake. And like I said, they really impressed me. I'm not obviously blown with my own Steelers, but even after that, I was really, really impressed with the way they beat us, and then they turned around and beat the Eagles the way they did in rushing for 280 yards against Philadelphia, who needed that win. And then like I said, they had chances at the end of the game. They were in the whole game. So Caleb Williams, I thought, played pretty well. That's all I'll say is that you kind of touched on everything else. But I feel like the Bears are probably a playoff team, and I also agree that they're probably a year out from true contenders. I think there's still another wide receiver. Odunze's a stud.
Burden's kind of coming into his own, but they kind of have guys. It's just kind of, I don't know what it is.
I think Swift's a hell of a player too. Said he's a big chunk of their offense.
Yeah.
But I think they add a couple of guys on defense and another threat on offense next year, and probably some more offensive linemen. I said Chicago's not that far away, and they've shown that where I think even if they get in the playoffs and win a game, it's not they surprised us more than once this year. But even if they didn't win a game, I don't see them making a long run. I said, but something to build off of, and a really overall an impressive. Exceeded my expectations for Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm also
first year head coach.
And Ben, I'm also also a big believer in Ben Johnson. When you have him, and then when your running backs coach is Eric Bieniemy, which was the offensive coordinator of those Mahomes Super Bowls.
He's a pretty good. Bieniemy's a pretty good offensive.
The offensive minds they have, I think they'll figure it out. So, exciting for Chicago fans. Still playing to play for. You still got the Packers again in the week after this, in Chicago, so they still can, somewhat control their own destiny. But yeah, that was what I took away from it. Was just kind of a little bit short. They proved I was okay, this should be a close game. Packers have been inconsistent, but they brought up their best, and they showed that they can show up again. That wasn't just a fluke. It's not like week to week. 2 or 3 solid weeks in a row on offense on both sides of the ball. And then for Chicago, it's showing again that the stage wasn't too big for them with the division on the line in Green Bay. So that's a kudos. But at the end of the day, Green Bay still got their number, so not quite over the hump. So it'll be interesting. But that was a great game.
Yeah. Rolling into the Sunday Night Football game, the Houston Texans beat the Chiefs 20-10. Starting with the Chiefs here, Patrick Mahomes 14-33, 160 yards, 3 interceptions. Only took 2 sacks in there. The problem that I've hit on all year is Patrick Mahomes leading the team in rushing yards with another 59 on the ground. Kareem Hunt, 12 for 30, and Pacheco, 9 for 30. So, Xavier Worthy, 3 for 55. Hollywood Brown, 1 for 35. Rashee Rice, 4 for 34. So, not a big. That Houston Texans defense, those stats speak for themselves. It's going to be hard to move the ball down the field on them. The Texans, on the other hand, did just enough to get the game over with. C.J. Stroud, 203 yards, 1 touchdown. 3 sacks. Chris Jones played out of his mind. Got to give Chris Jones his flowers. The first time he's really shown up all year consistently.
That was his biggest game for sure.
Woody Marks, 68 yards on the ground. C.J. Stroud, another 2 for 5. Nico Collins, another week over 100 yards for 4 for 121. Jaden Higgins, 3 for 24. So, just a crazy week in general.
27 drop passes.
A million.
Just keeps going up.
Yeah, a million drop passes.
Rumor is they're still dropping passes right now.
I was eating ribs in the hot tub, and I could have caught more passes than the offensive wide receivers did.
If you drop a rib in the hot tub, do you still pick it up and eat it all?
It's a little salty.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Some chlorine. A little chlorine never hurt anybody, right? Travis Kelce recorded a tackle.
Shit.
Just so you guys know, that's a fun stat. But just, a tough game if you're a Chiefs fan to watch. If you're a Texans fan, you have to be happy with how good your defense is.
You're fighting back the tears right now. I can see it in your eyes.
I am. I don't. I don't really have much to say. I mean,
Other than you dropped a Twitter poll out there on what sign I have to hold up there at the Christmas
and
game.
you know,
I wanna hear
I
that.
saw an object down here in the basement that I thought I might be able to add to it. Maybe we'll talk you into it, but we'll see.
I thought of another one. I thought of another one on Sunday.
No.
Yeah, there's plenty of
Yeah.
good sign options out
I'm
there.
going to get COVID on the 23rd of
Some
December.
people call me a lover. Some call me a predator. Either way, I'm not allowed within 500 feet of the school. That's what I think the sign should say.
There's all kinds of crazy stuff. But I mean, the Chiefs lose. They drop them down to a 16% playoff
Just have to slow
contention.
down
here.
in school zones.
But that defense obviously only had 2 sacks, but their quarterback hits. They had 8 QB hits in there. So just Mahomes under siege and
32 drops.
comes back to the. I think I started talking about it in week 4 or 5 when Pacheco went down initially, but just the lack of a run game when Patrick Mahomes isn't a designed QB runner. Like, I don't think Andy Reid's going to call a play to say, hey, we're running Q power left with Mahomes. This is Mahomes running around making magic with his feet, scrambles and shit. So I think that's obviously something they'll address this offseason because you don't want your $500 million quarterback running the ball 7 times for 59 yards and leading the team in rushing yards. Now, if that's, like a Josh Allen rolling out of the pocket and there's nobody in front of you, you take the ball and run. But these are more out of desperation runs. This is Mahomes trying to put the team on his back with
Lowering his shoulder for first downs and stuff.
this stuff you don't want your QB1, and also arguably face of the NFL doing consistently because that, risk of injury and all that other stuff we've seen to other guys. But, yeah, Texans are hot and Chiefs are dead.
Yeah. I mean...
You know how hard it is not to just talk so much shit as a Broncos fan?
Yeah. No, I mean, so yeah, definitely if you're a Chiefs fan, I feel like this is the year that you're going to be watching it from the couch. Unfortunately, I never thought that I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. I gave him the benefit of the doubt because of 15. I said, but, just the same things we saw all year. Just inconsistency on both sides of the football. Unable to get off the field at certain points in the game. The defense, I still thought, played pretty good overall. But another game, it's just like for Kansas City, it's like you have teams like the Jaguars, you have teams like the Bills, you have the Chargers who used to play once, now you have the Texans, all teams that are now 1 and 2, 3 games ahead of you with 4 to play, on top of having you lost all those Jacksonville and Buffalo. Like they have the tiebreaker too. So that was we talked about it last week. That was basically a playoff game that needed to have it show that they can at least turn it on. And I'm not shocked that the Texans won. I said, but I was still giving Patrick Mahomes the benefit of the doubt. And
Sunday night prime time at Arrowhead. I mean, if
they know they knew they needed that game.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, but that's also why I'm going to give kudos to the Texans in that being on this crazy hot streak and knowing that Kansas City struggled on offense, and so we're going to make you beat us. And I said last week too that I thought there was Houston would be no way in chance where they would be able to rush the football. Like if Kansas City was going to win, it was going to play right into Houston's hands, and that was they're going to have to get protection, and that's a lot to ask for against that Texans defense to give Mahomes time to make plays. And he made some plays in the third quarter and throughout the game, but not consistently. And like they said, they didn't do anything in the first half. I think the other thing I take away as a Texans fan was I think all those catches, at least 3 of those catches were over for 100 yards by Nico Collins, a couple of jump balls. And so making huge plays on the Sunday Night Football to set the tone. And that allowed, when Houston's up 10-0, when they're up early, that allowed Houston to go out and do exactly what they do best. And you saw, even though the sacks weren't there as much this week, only 2 or 3 sacks, still getting turnovers, still getting pressure, still getting holding penalties, still getting false starts. The Texans defense, like I said, completely shut out Kansas City. So, we've already kind of touched on it. I won't repeat myself too much, I said, but, just over the last month, really one of the only losses they had was the Broncos in the last second that they should have won. But the Jaguars, the Bills, how much better do those wins look now? And it's and not just win, but how they against the Chiefs, getting a sack, stopping 4th down, getting an interception. Against the Bills, having the 8 sacks, they still had to make that other final stop against Josh Allen. So what do? They get an interception. It gets called back. Next play, they get sacked to end the game. Jaguars, they come back, they shut down the Jaguars, they come back from 29-10, they take a 30-29 lead. Guess what? Close the game by getting a strip fumble when the Jaguars are almost in a field goal game to win the game or set it up to win the game. Texans defense puts an exclamation point back for a touchdown. So like they're the closers of the games, and so like that's what excites me is like the balance of C.J. Stroud making multiple big plays after not being consistent and I know being hurt, so being out in and out of the lineup. But man, like the way if Nico Collins keeps playing the way he's playing, making enough big plays, he's a solid fringe top 10, probably not the top 10 receiver, but like top 20 receiver maybe,
sure.
like legit. And
I mean, he's a good wide receiver one for what they do on offense.
Right.
Well, and the thing is, in the third quarter, the Chiefs only gave up 1 first down and 17 yards. So the Chiefs defense showed up to take control of the game in that second half.
Yeah.
And so it's disappointing.
But Houston, I mean, kudos to them. I said Kansas City. Kudos to them for not losing focus, like knowing Kansas City, like we're playing Kansas City, like and all those storylines. Like surely Kansas City, like, they came out and played their game plan. They were confident that our defense is good enough. I don't care that this is exactly it. This is a new team. This isn't the same Chiefs. We're not afraid. We've won in Arrowhead before, and they just look confident right from the get-go. And so, like, I was very impressed by the Texans taking care of the Chiefs. And again, if you're a Chiefs fan, I feel like that was the shot to the heart.
Oh, look at that. More stuff on my TikTok algorithm. Yeah, I'm just going to get a new TikTok account.
Yeah, it's going to have to you can reset your algorithm on there.
Jeez.
There we go. But another primetime game, the last one of the week, overtime game. The LA Chargers beat the Philadelphia Eagles 22-19 out there in SoFi in overtime. Jalen Hurts, 4 interceptions.
He was my defensive player of the week, which you never asked.
I legitimately had it in my notes. So I was like, I don't know if I really want to say that, and I also had a pick 6. So. But yeah, Jalen Hurts 4 interceptions, 240 yards. Saquon Barkley came and had himself a game. Kind of looked like Barkley of last year. 20 carries, 122 yards, and a tutty. AJ Brown 6 receptions for 100 yards. Goddard.
They just get him the ball more.
Yeah, he had less receptions this week than he had last week. Whatever, brother. But yeah, 4 interceptions, the big one for that. Jay Herbo playing with a broken left hand that had surgery last Monday. Had plates in it, and he had it taped up and gloved up. Guy's a dog. I mean, that's Jim Harbaugh football right there. I heard Aikman say that about 30 times last night, or I just heard Buck say that about 30 times last night. So got a little annoying there at the end. But Jay Herbo, 139 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Justin Herbert also leading the team in rushing yards, 10 carries for 66 yards. Hampton coming back with 56 yards. And then, holy shit, 12 completed passes. Vito, rookie running back, 1 for 60. Keenan Allen, 3 for 22. Trey Harris, 1 for 18. Ladd McConkey, 1 for 12. I could keep going, but they just get lower.
Nobody cares.
Holy shit, 12 for 26. That's an NFL stat line, and they won.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about. Justin Herbert got sacked. How many times do you think he got sacked, Him and we watched the game?
5 or 6.
8.
Is that what it was?
7 for 33, 7 sacks. Obviously, 10 carries for 66 yards with a broken left hand that you're not.
Well, you got to hold it a couple times where you
you could
got
tell it
stunned.
hurt.
Yeah, and guys came in there and were swinging at that hand. Which,
100.
Yeah.
That's what makes sense why you did that. But just, I think this game was a perfect showing of how banged up the Chargers offensive line is, / how bad the rush game is when you have a quarterback with a broken left hand that had surgery a week before, leading the team in rushing yards. And I mean, just you forget how good Justin Herbert is at the game of football, just running around making crazy athletic plays. I mean, he's like 6'6", so he's just a freak of nature. But the Eagles, I mean, you throw 4 interceptions, you deserve to lose the game. But I think this game, even though the Chargers did win it, and got those 4 picks, I think the Eagles lost this game more than the Chargers won it across the board. But shout out Justin Herbert. He deserves all the flowers in the world just for being
You're big on flowers.
I'm a big flowers guy.
I better get something for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we'll see.
No,
Maybe right after
I'll
the Super Bowl.
get you a Super Bowl ring. But yeah, I'm excited for. The Chargers at 9-4, they're still lurking, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with you that to me it was more the Eagles lost that game than the Chargers won. It seemed like there was more Philly fans than there were Chargers fans. That's not abnormal, but or maybe 50-50. I don't know. But, it's Eagles fans losing 3 straight and where it looked like, they kind of figured things out. Won the first 4, lost 2, and then they won another 4 games in a row, so then they were sitting at 8-2 and really hadn't figured it out on offense. And then another week, just like, a couple weeks ago against the Cowboys, some of these other losses, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, only having 3 turnovers through the first 8 games and over the last 5 having like 8 to 10, something like that. Turned the ball over 5 times last night, including, like I said, the back-breaking interception. So, to me, it was. I agree, it was more the Eagles lost that game than the Chargers won. But kudos to the Chargers defense for continuing making plays, and they said, and to Justin Herbert, he said he won a game that wasn't the sharpest. He still made enough throws to keep down, still made enough first downs, and then getting things done with his legs. It was just pure will. So I said, kudos to the Chargers. I think they'll be a playoff team. I said, but that's why I took more for was like I think Justin Herbert was even surprised when they got that overtime interception. But I said, I feel like the Chargers defense played pretty good last night too. Obviously they had 5 turnovers, so like part of that. But you can't take that away from the Chargers defense either. So Hampton had a really good game for them. They've got some young guys. I said, I feel like they're also another team that'll be a year or 2 out. They still need some playmakers. I said, but like Herbert, I said we'll see how much the injury affects him the rest of the year. Like you said, he definitely took some shots, but kudos to his toughness and winning against a tough, desperate Philadelphia team. But if you're Philadelphia, you just kind of worry about. Again, another year where they look like favorites, just like they won it all with Foles, and then the next year they come back, start off super hot.
They got their coach fired.
And then, and I don't think knock on wood, we'll see, unless they completely lose out. I don't think Sirianni's obviously safe. But that being said, it's just like been a really disappointing last month for the Eagles where they've had their opportunities, and I still feel like obviously they have the same guys at Smith and Smith and Brown. They have a good receiving core. They've got Saquon Barkley. Like, they've got the guys there. It's just they're another one I feel like that just can't put it together. They haven't put a full game together all year.
Yeah.
2 halves, both sides of the ball. So
it's been interesting to watch for sure. Going to talk about some college football talk here after those recap of the games. So college football championship week, you could say, I guess, went over. Tulane beat North Texas 34-21. They made it in the playoffs. James Madison, who nobody had making the playoffs, 31-14 over Troy, made the college football playoffs. Indiana wins the Big Ten championship first time since 1945. So, World War II type stuff there. 13-10. Georgia steamrolls Alabama 28-7. Texas Tech rolls over BYU 34-7, and Duke upsets Virginia 27-17 in overtime. So that sets our college football playoff up to Alabama plays at Oklahoma on the 19th of December. Miami plays at Texas A&M on the 20th. Tulane plays at Ole Miss on the 20th, and James Madison plays at Oregon on the 20th. I think it's crazy that I know Miami didn't make the Big Ten, the ACC championship, and then they went. They're 10-2. They had a better record than the other 2 teams, but both their losses were to Virginia and Duke. So the fact that Miami jumped them and Tulane and James Madison made it in, and not a Notre Dame is kind of a storyline that will probably be looked into. I think the idea of a 12-team playoff in college football is nice, and I enjoy more teams being able to make it instead of the top 4. But they definitely need to rework it or write some guidelines to what qualifies a team, because I know it's the top 4 it's the top 4 conference champions, and then you have the 8 at-larges, which is fine. But when Oregon's going to kill James Madison. James Madison's. They're good for who they play, but they're not going to go anywhere. Tulane and Ole Miss will be interesting just because of the Lane Kiffin, all that drama that happened there. But I still think Ole Miss rolls over Tulane for no reason. But then you have a team like Alabama and Oklahoma, they play that game, then they have to go play Georgia, where their playoff stretch here looks harder. But when you have Ole Miss has to beat, or A&M has to beat Miami, and then they play Texas Tech, who they already beat once this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it definitely needs to be redone or relooked at. The top seeds, Indiana's number 1 overall, so they get a first-round bye. Ohio State dropped to number 2 overall, first-round bye. Georgia, SEC champion, and then Texas Tech. So those are the byes. So here next week, we'll have another conversation about who we think is going to win those games. I mean,